listeners, welcome to Plano's Political Pitbull Podcast. I am Esther.
And I'm Ruth.
And we have a huge show for you today. But before we get started, our sponsor is Southwest Pain Management. Southwest Pain Management takes care of most chronic pain without pain pills. Their goal is to get you back to doing the things you love. They are also the world's leading long COVID experts. Dr. Groisman sees people from all over the world to treat their long COVID. Southwest Pain Management is in Plano. Please go to their website, reliefbeginshere.com. That's reliefbeginshere.com to see all that they do. So, last week in our last episode, we talked about Julie Homer's resignation from Plano City Council. If you missed that episode, please go back and listen to it. Well, Ruth, I have some insider information on this issue.
Okay.
According to a very reliable source, back in April, the Collin County Democrats were tapping Mark Ferris, and if you don't know who that is, he ran against Angela Paxton for state senate. So they wanted him to run for Commissioner's Court Place 4. And from all accounts, from everything I had heard, he was supposed to run, and he was going to announce his candidacy in July. However, after the Texas Ethics Commission financial report from all the candidates and parties were turned in, filed, and made public, Mark suddenly changed his mind and decided not to run. Now, there could be a few reasons why he didn't run. I am speculating that he saw Shelby Williams' financials, and then he saw the Democrats of Collin County's financials, which indicated that the party is basically broke. They've got no money, or almost no money. So Mark said to himself, I think I'm going to skip this one, and decided not to run. Interesting. So now the Democrats are scrambling to find somebody, anybody, to run under the Democrat Party for this seat. They want the Commissioner's Court back. They had it long ago, and the Republicans slowly flipped it. And the Democrats are hungry to get in there and slowly flip to Democrat the whole court. So, who do they reach out to? Well, they reach out to Julie Homer. And somehow, they convinced her to run. Maybe they told her, this is going to be a piece of cake, it's going to be easy, no problems, everybody likes you in Plano. I disagree with that, but maybe they said that. Oh, also, it's going to be a cakewalk due to the makeup of the district. Maybe they offered her something. I'm not sure, obviously, what they said to her. I'm speculating here. But whatever they said to her, for some reason, at the very last minute, she decides she's going to run. Now, I honestly don't care what they said to her. I don't care what they offered her. She should have said, find somebody else. And put the taxpayers of Plano first. But she didn't do that. Instead, She followed her own selfish ambition. And now, because of that, we will have at least 3 elections in the beginning of 2026. Possibly 6 elections if we go to runoffs. So we got the special election to fill place 7. That's Julie's current seat. Then we have the 2026 primary. And now we have the DART referendum election. Yes, Plano City Council voted to let the residents of Plano vote to either stay or leave Dallas Area Rapid Transit.
Okay.
No thoughts yet?
No, not really.
Okay, wait for it. I'm sure it's going to come. So, Plano City Council held a special meeting November 5th, 2025 at 5 o'clock. Why 5 o'clock? What is it? Did they honestly think people were not going to show up? Because, they showed up. The room was full. All right? So, people got there. Just to tell you, it was about half and half there was, I think, 100 speakers registered. I'll double check that in a minute. But half of the group that spoke was from Plano. The other half were DART riders from other cities. So a little background, okay? Staff got up there, Andrew got up there, and he said that DART, we started in DART in 1986. We voted, the Plano people voted back then to enter DART. And over the years, Plano taxpayers have given DART over $2.2 billion. And they want to know what they've done with it. They have given them $120 million a year, roughly, if you average all that out. And they started to identify serious concerns relating to service, safety, reliability, transportation, transparency, and financial management. So, over the years, Plano has tried to talk with DART, tried to negotiate, tried to propose different things to try and make the service better. We put in more than we get back. So we put in roughly, as I said, about $120 million a year. Last year we put in $109 million specifically. Next year we're projected to give them $131 million. But we only get around $44 million in services back. So obviously this is not fair by any stretch of the imagination. We put in more money than we get back. Dallas puts in less money than it gets back. So basically all the towns are putting in more than they receive, and pretty much subsidizing Dallas. They've tried going to the legislature. Plano and the other towns have tried going to the legislature. That has not worked. The legislature has come back to them and basically said, you all need to figure this out. Locally, leave us out of it. Okay? So, why are they doing this now? Well, in state law, the voters can only vote on this question of whether to pull out of DART once every 6 years. Well, 2026 is 6 years. So, all right. So that's why they need to do this now. Interestingly, the vote is set for May, and they have 45 days before the vote to pull out. Basically, if DART comes back with something and says, all right, we don't want you to leave. We don't want to risk the voters leaving and voting to leave. So we're going to try to compromise with you and give you some things that you want. As long as that happens 45 days before, then the city council can go and they can cancel the election. Once you hit that 45-day mark, the election is on, no matter what. There's nothing you can do after that. So, excuse my page turning. I listened to all of the speakers. Every single solitary one of them. And I kept a tally also of what, who was for, who was against. So, 7 people spoke for giving the voters a right to vote on the issue. And the rest of the 100 speakers, except one was pretty neutral. She just gave an idea of how they can pay for some stuff. All the rest voted against. So, you do the math, 100 minus 8, that's the number you have against. And then half of those were actually Plano residents. So there was many people there who ride DART. And obviously, they were scared. They were very, very scared that they were going to lose their means of transportation. One woman, she is from Carrollton. She takes DART to go to her doctor's in Plano. Others take DART to school, work, various things. There's just one problem. It's not enough. The ridership is still so low. Current Revolt did a video. They rode DART pretty much all day long, in rush hour, out of rush hour. The trains were empty. The buses were empty. The parking lot that you go and you park the car at the train station was pretty empty. So, for whatever reason, people aren't using the public transportation they have. For me, and for us, I know my husband works 5 minutes away from our house. And I decided one day, well, let me see how long it would take him to go via bus. Because we have a bus right on our street corner. It would take him a half hour to get to work. He could walk faster than the bus could take him. So we have 2 cars. He drives. No one is going to use something when they could walk faster. Or if they have a car, drive there faster. Time is money too. The dartboard CEO spoke. She said crime is down. She said we invested more in the goal link that you all wanted. We want to work with Plano. The dartboard's chair spokesperson, he spoke, and he said he wanted a compromise. Also, just for your information, Plano would still be responsible for its share of debt that we have with DART for 9 years. So we would still be contributing that 1 cent of our sales tax to them until the debt was paid off. Commissioner Brunoff from Planning and Zoning, he came in and he had, I thought, which was a good idea, to get a professional mediator. Seemed like a good idea. What else? So,
This is kind of boring.
I'm sorry. I'm getting there. I wanted to get to, just to give you a feel, all right, of what some of the things were.
Doesn't sound like anything new.
No, it wasn't. It was a lot of the same, but I listened to all 100 speakers. It was a 3-hour meeting.
Sorry for you.
So be glad that I'm not going to say what everybody said. Most of the council members read from a script. So after all 100 speakers went, and by the way, the mayor gave them 1 minute each. I was shocked that they actually got to say anything in that time. It was quite amazing. But
Probably because there were so many of them, they were like, if we give them all
2 minutes.
2-3 minutes, we're going to be here forever.
Well, I'm sorry. Where do you have to be? It's you have one item on the agenda. This is it. Okay? Pretty much. You're there. You're starting at 5 o'clock. What difference does it make if you give them 90 seconds?
Another hour? You're there 4 hours instead of 3?
Well,
I don't know. I didn't do the math. I'm just
that's
thinking.
your. You know what? That's your job. Okay, that's your job, to listen to the people. The sad part is that those people pretty much wasted their time because, like I said, almost everybody read from written remarks. Okay? I'm just going to give you an overview. Most of the council people thanked everyone for their comments. They all went, I am a big supporter in public transportation. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. Okay, I believe in mass transit. Some people, Horn went, I believe in it for the environment. I believe in walking communities. He said, we on the city council have a fiscal responsibility to all the citizens of Plano. This 1 cent model that we agreed to 42 years ago when Plano was mostly an agricultural community is not the business engine that it is today. We are looking to spend $131 million to DART, and I don't see any improvements from DART to serve all the residents of Plano. I still see empty buses. I still hear complaints of GoLink. Plano Police Association reports higher crime incidents at DART stations. We must leave it to the citizens of Plano to vote on what to do with DART. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. The people who came up, most of them kept saying, I am coming up here to speak today to urge you not to take DART away, not to withdraw from DART. I mean, okay, were they not clear? this is not a vote to leave DART. This is a vote to let the citizens decide. Do they want to leave DART or not? I heard that a lot. I wanted to say, can somebody please tell them that that's not what we're voting on here. We're not voting to take DART away. That's not what our decision is. Pay attention, people. So, Maria, too, got up there. She went over a little history. I'm not going to go into it. She's been at this a long time. She went over the crime. She said the crime on DART is definitely a problem, and there are safety concerns. She said, we have been talking for 6.5 years with no results. Compromising requires that there's good faith on both sides, mutual give and take. I haven't seen any giving, only taking. She said, we need a progressive public system that serves Plano, not Dallas, not other cities, but Plano. We need something that actually addresses our needs, that connects east, west, north, south. Plano. To connect all of us. And that transit system is not being met by DART. And they're not changing. Instead of kowtowing to Dallas area rapid transit, why can't we do Collin area rapid transit? Oh, God help us. I think we can. So now she wants a county-wide public transit system. This scares me. Question? You look like you're pontificating something.
I'm just wondering.
What are you wondering?
So, the issue right now, the whole reason this was brought up is because Plano is losing money on DART. To fix that issue, Maria's suggestion is to create a bus route for the entirety of the county.
Either buses or trains, maybe both.
How is that?
Oh,
I'm just wondering the thought process.
Beats me because the cities to the north of us, they want nothing to do with DART. In the sense that they don't want to give 1 cent of their taxpayer money, sales tax money, to DART. They are contracting for smaller services with DART. But they don't want to get involved in this. And some of the county doesn't need this. It's very rural. Generally speaking, you don't have public transportation in very rural areas. So, I don't know what's in her head, but a county-wide transit system? That's a scary endeavor. So, Homer, she read from a statement, and she said, people have told her, oh, you need to hold DART accountable.
Told her?
They told her, we really need to hold DART, you really need to hold DART accountable. And she's like, I'm not quite sure what you mean. We've been doing this for 6.5 years. She held up a graph. This was interesting. She held up a graph that said that Plano is on track to exceed 2 million boardings annually, with a good mix of rail, bus, microtransit, and paratransit.
Words are not wording today.
I know, I'm not. Paratransit. Paratransit, by the way, is for people with disabilities. Microtransit is, from my understanding, they contract with Uber or Lyft to pick people up and take them to or from the train station or bus station. So she took the 2 million boardings. She said next year we're set to pay $131 million to DART. She said that is $65.50 per boarding. Now, I'm not entirely sure. She was shocked by that number. I'm not entirely sure if she feels that that's too much, too little. She wasn't clear. She just was like, that's alarming. I guess she means it's too much. And I agree. If a person were to have that as their ticket price, they wouldn't ride DART. Again, another supporter of public transit. I mean, she just went on and on and on and on and on. She said, if we delay, the next several months will be dominated by political campaigns, pressure tactics, and misinformation. I believe Plano residents deserve better than that. Calling the election now would remove the constant question of will they or won't they, and allow us to focus on facts, collaborations, and solutions. From what it sounded like, I got from that, like, ooh, we're going to use this as a leverage tactic. Okay? Like I said, she went on. I have pages and pages. You can hear me turning the pages. This is all Homer. I'm not going to read it all. If you want to see exactly what they said, please go to the city website and watch the meeting. You can skip the speakers if you want to and just go right to the council's comments. With Levine, it was more of the same. He did point out that, hey, we're not voting on whether to leave DART. We're voting on whether to let the citizens leave DART. And again, I'm a huge public transit proponent, but we need something better. He said he believes that more Plano residents would use DART if they felt comfortable. No, they wouldn't use DART if they felt comfortable. They would use DART, Steve, if it was easier, quicker, cheaper, and faster than getting there with a Lyft or Uber or their own car or walking.
What context does he mean comfortable?
I think he meant comfortable with the service, but I mean, that's not why people aren't riding. People aren't riding because ever since the pandemic, people are not going into Dallas. They're working from home, or they're working closer to home, or maybe they're working north instead of south now.
I don't think this is a pandemic thing, though. I think this is, Plano's always been losing money.
Ridership did go down. It went down during the pandemic because people were staying home. And so people were staying home, and ridership has not even gotten back up 5 years after the pandemic to pre-pandemic levels. So that says something. If you're not even getting your ridership back up to pre-pandemic levels after 5 years, something has shifted in how people move and where they're going. I'm looking for Downs. Downs spoke. She finally talked. Here she is. So again, she spoke from a written speech. And she said, when I ran for this office, I promised to listen with empathy, respect, and most importantly, kindness. Again, thanked everybody, 100% support of public transit, blah, blah, blah. She said, I believe that sales taxes is not a dollar for dollar in and out. What we do for the public good, we do for the public good. And we must serve the public good. Maybe I should read that again. Because this is a quote from her. I put the closed captionings on so I could get this. What we do for the public good, we do for the public good. And we must serve the public good. I wonder if she got this from Kamala Harris, because this is like double speak, or any other like U.S. politician, because this is amazing double speak if I ever heard it. What are you saying, woman? And then she said, that is what we're elected to do. No, that is not what you're elected to do, Councilwoman Downs. You are elected. Your job is to protect the rights of the people. For government is instituted to protect the rights of the people's God-given rights.
Maybe that's what she meant by public good. Although she was using it in like she was using it as different meanings each time.
She was reading that. She wrote that down. Okay.
She used it as a collective of people. She used it as an idea.
It was
very impressive.
That was bizarre. It was bizarre. She continued, but yet, I think it's time to take this decision to the citizens to hear what they have to say, because my job is to hear what the citizens have to say.
Say that again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This woman's a lawyer. This is scary. But yet I think it's time to take this decision to the citizens to hear what they have to say, because my job is to hear what the citizens have to say.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay. Okay. Yes, but if the citizens told you that we should be able to kill all blondes, people with glasses who sit on city council, would you listen to what they have to say?
I think you're using hyperbole.
Yeah, it was, and come on, they weren't even listening to what their citizens were saying, and their citizens were right in front of them. Oh, God. She's committed to effective solutions that meet our transportation needs. She wants to know how people get around. Well, that's a good idea. I liked Vidal's comments the best. They were straight, simple, and to the point. Okay? I can read all of Vidal's comments. This was all of his comments.
Is he not a lawyer?
No, he's not a lawyer.
That's why.
This is what he said. He thanked everyone for their comments and their emails, and then he went on to say, I am of the thought process that this should be forwarded to the residents to decide. Close quote. The end. That was it.
That's all you need to say.
That was all you needed to say, guys. And he did. Straightforward to the point. I like it. The mayor didn't seem to be reading from written remarks, but I have a feeling they were memorized because they were too succinct and they flowed very beautifully.
Almost too beautifully.
Yes. He hopes that negotiations continue with DART, believes that public transit wants are to be door to door. Let me
Door to door?
Door to door. We're going to pick you up from point A, like your house, and take you to where you want to go.
Like Uber?
Yeah, like Uber and Lyft. But I don't know if he necessarily wants to contract with Uber and Lyft. It would make sense. But I don't know if he wants to do that. So he said he wants Frisco, Allen, McKinney, Prosper to be a participant in public transit, yet not one city is willing to pay that 1 cent to join. We have got to grow the system. Oh, God. Please, no.
Not the system.
But there's a reason why cities don't want it. Okay? And shocker, the resolution passed 8-0. And then they just talked about direction. What they did not talk about was what an alternate system would look like. So obviously people are very scared. They're going to be having a committee, of course, of stakeholders with residents on it to work towards alternative solutions. They don't have much time to come up with something. And I'm sorry, guys, this is not your lane. You are not transportation experts here. How are you going to know if this is going to work, if it's the right fit? There are so many things to think of. But if you are interested in being on this committee, the application is going to be on the website, and you can apply to be on the committee.
To answer your question, that's what the staff's for.
I guess so, but do we have city staff that are experts in this? I mean, they have always pushed this to DART. That was the idea. So I got to thinking. I began to ponder this question. With all this talk about public transit and, transportation is a right, that's what some people said, and it's your job, we need public transportation. So I had some questions. And I got to thinking, how did public transit on land start? And why and when did the government take it over? Also, I pondered another question. Is the government responsible for our transportation? are they responsible from getting us to point A to point B? Is this their job?
Well, for the first question, you can easily do some research.
I did. Would you like me? I can go into that first, or we can answer the question. Well, let me go into that first, and then maybe the question we can answer the question. So, the inventor of the first land public transportation was way back in France in 1662, and his name was Pascal. And if that name sounds familiar to anyone out there, he was a great mathematician. He also was a physicist, a philosopher, but he is known for his mathematics. So, he's in France in 1662, and he invented the first fixed route public transport on land in France, called the 5-penny carriages. And they were 8-passenger horse-drawn carriages, and they had fixed routes with fixed timed pickups and designated stops. They also had designated fares based on how long you were to be traveling on the horse and carriage. He formed the private company, and he ran it until his death. Sadly, after his death, the company closed. Guess there wasn't a lot of who's going to take over questions that were asked. So the company closed. Now, the first public transportation in the United States was established in 1827 by Abraham Bauer in New York City. Again, it was private. His vehicles were 12-seat stagecoaches called the Accommodation, and they ran along Broadway from Battery to Bleecker Street. And in 1832 in New Orleans, the first horse-drawn rail cars, called streetcars, were approved, or appeared, I should say. They were operated by Pontius Air Train Railroad Company. And in general, every public transportation in the U.S. was owned and operated by private individuals and private companies before the government took control of it in the 20th century. It was like 100 years of this. In the 1910s, cities started to create their own transit systems, and elected officials began to view transit companies poorly. And they wanted to, as usual, take control, and they wanted public-owned agencies to run transit as a public service and not a business. And they wonder why they're managing so poorly these things. Then FDR's administration comes along, and it begins to finance some public transit projects during the Great Depression. Privately owned transport systems or transit systems only declined due to the increase in car ownership. People had enough money to buy their own cars now. And transit companies pretty much went out of business. Because if DART was a private company today, it would be out of business. Okay? So just like that, cars came in, they went out, and the companies went out of business. In 1964, the government passed the Urban Mass Transportation Act. It provided federal grants and loans, but primarily to public agencies for projects, but not to private companies. This created a huge, strong incentives for cities to purchase and take over the existing private transit system to qualify for the federal money. Within a decade, most transit systems in the U.S. went from private to public ownership. So that's a little history on land transportation in the U.S. And, you know, I have to say, they took the trains and they took the buses. Interestingly, they didn't take the planes. Possibly because the airlines were too big, too strong, maybe because it was too expensive. But the government controls the air traffic control. And they're just doing a bang-up job right now, aren't they? Because the government is still shut down. If air traffic control was private, you'd still be able to get on your plane on time. So, let's get to our second question. Is the government responsible for you getting to point A, from point A to point B?
Well, given the fact how recent, I mean, it's not that. It's a lot more recent than I thought it would be.
Yes. It wasn't that long ago that roads were made of dirt. Okay? And interestingly, I think it was Madison, vetoed a federal road project that was going to basically connect roads and make roads and cross state lines and everything. And he vetoed it. He said, this is not the job of the federal government. This is not the job of government. Specifically the federal government. So all these interstate highways that is controlled by the federal government, he'd be totally against. Because he basically was, but then back then they were made of dirt. There is nothing in the Constitution, there is nothing in the Declaration of Independence that says that city government is responsible for people's transportation needs. Why is this government run?
Because it's a right.
Well, interesting enough, if transportation is a right, then the government would be required to give everyone a driver's license. And we know, we all took driver's ed, driving is a privilege, not a right. So, if that's true, then transportation would be free, and it would be, the government would have to give you a car, would have to give you a driver's license, could not even charge you for riding the bus or train.
I will agree on the charging, not on the driver's license, because You are driving, because when you're driving, you're putting other people's lives at risk.
So is the bus driver.
And yourself. Well, the bus driver is driving the bus. You're not driving the bus.
This is true.
You have to get a special license to drive a bus.
Yes, you do. And a train.
Because you have all those lives in your care.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole other topic.
Yes. You know, I was thinking about this, and I was trying to remember if the bus company was private when the blacks boycotted the buses during the civil rights movement, which is what what started the civil rights movement in the first place. I believe they were private. And they boycotted the buses because they didn't want the separate seating anymore. If those were government-owned buses, that boycott would have never worked. Because the city would not have cared. The agency would not have cared one iota that people were walking or getting to their places of work in other ways. Why would you? DART doesn't seem to care that their ridership is down, and they're doing nothing to increase it. I mean, one could argue that it is a theoretical boycott because, well, it's not a boycott because the people are mad at DART for some reason. It's just they don't need it anymore. And when the masses don't need something anymore, it goes away. Or it adapts. Adapt or die. And DART's not adapting. And they realize they're not in the risk of dying out because they will always have that money coming in and will always increase no matter what the ridership is. The ridership could be one person. DART is always going to get that 1 cent in sales tax money.
Yeah, so they're like, why should we spend the effort to change?
Exactly. There's no motivation for them to change. Which, when you think about it, is absolute lunacy that we voted to be a part of that agreement. You agree that you're going to get DART, you're going to get trains, and you're going to get buses. And then you're going to give over money. Doesn't matter what kind of service you get. Doesn't matter if the buses are safe, if the trains are safe, if they're clean. Doesn't matter how many lines you have. Doesn't matter if people are riding it. You're forking over that 1 cent. They don't have to do anything in return other than drive the buses and drive the trains. Yeah, basically exist. That is a horrible business model. It's not a business model because, as you heard in my little history, the politicians didn't want this to be a business. They wanted it to be a public good. So they didn't care if money was being blown. They didn't care if the service that they were getting, if the product that they were getting was worth the money. They just wanted it. That was nuts on their parts. On our parts, because we voted for it. Well, I wasn't here. But back then, The citizens voted for it. You enter in a contract, I enter a contract with my lawn guy. He mows my lawn, he gives me a service, I give him money. That's the exchange there. That is the free market at work. If all of a sudden he stops doing a good job, if he starts doing a bad job, if all of a sudden he doesn't come when he's supposed to, or he does something he's not supposed to, or he doesn't do something he is supposed to, guess what I get to do? I get to say, shape up or you're fired. The only way we get to say Dart is fired is through an election? The only way we get to change the terms of the contract is through an election? That's not right. Now, we do get a liaison on the dartboard. Each city gets to have a person on the board of Dart, sort of like a commissioner's board or an advisory board. But Dallas holds the majority positions. Plano gets one and only person sitting on that board. So all the other cities are outvoted. So all the other cities could name, no, we don't want this. No, we don't want something. And the Dallas reps can go, we don't care. We want it. We're going to pass it. That's unequal. Each city should get one rep. Again, who negotiated this? I don't quite know what I'm going to do, but I have to tell you, this is just another example of why when government does something, it always messes it up. Always. So, frankly, I have said this before. I don't use Dart. Dart is worthless to me and my family. We pretty much could walk faster than Dart can get us there. We can take an Uber, we can take a Lyft, or we can take our own car. Never been on the bus. Went on the train twice. Once to the fair, once to the state fair, once another time. We came back from the state fair during rush hour. It was packed. Packed. It was standing car only. And that's not the case anymore. So, what's changed? That's what we got to answer. That is the question. What has changed? Plano people, over the next few months, you will need to decide how you're going to vote. It's not going to be an easy choice. Do your homework and decide, but make sure that you make the right choice. Because when that vote is taken, and if the voters decide to leave Dart, service starts the day after. All service comes to a grinding halt in Plano. Now, you can go to Richardson and hop on the train or the bus. But in Plano, that's all, folks. So, next up, we have our very important dog, which is still Mr. Zeus. And I am looking for Zeus's sheet of paper, which I cannot find. Think you remember it? No? All right. Well, Zeus is a very lovable dog. He is over at Plano Animal Shelter. He does have a genetic eye defect, but it doesn't slow him down, and he is a love bug. So if you're interested in Zeus, please go to our website, www.planospoliticalpitbull.com, and click on the link, Pitbulls Up for Adoption. That is all the time we have today. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This is Esther.
And this is Ruth.
For Plano's Political Pitbull, signing off.